What if the universe you see every single day is not the real universe, but just a tiny, embarrassingly small fraction of what actually exists? Here is the shocking truth. Your eyes can only detect a razor-thin slice of the electromagnetic spectrum. Radio waves, gamma rays, X-rays. They are all passing through your body right now, and you feel absolutely nothing. You are essentially blind to 99.9% of reality. Scientists discovered that if you could see magnetic fields, the entire sky would look like a violently dancing ocean of invisible rivers flowing in every direction. If you could see in infrared, every human body would glow like a burning star in the darkness. The world you trust every morning when you wake up, the solid, stable, reliable world, is a hallucination your brain builds from fragments. The actual universe is wild, chaotic, overlapping layers of energy and information that your biology simply refuses to show you. You are not seeing reality. You are seeing your brain's best guess at reality. What if the tree outside your window is not just a tree, but a living, breathing electrical communication network running an ancient internet older than humanity itself? Here is what will genuinely disturb you. Trees send chemical and electrical signals underground through fungal networks called mycorrhizae. Scientists literally call it the wood wide web. A mother tree recognizes her own offspring and deliberately sends them more nutrients than stranger trees. When one tree is attacked by insects, it releases chemical warning signals into the air, and neighboring trees actually change their chemistry to defend themselves before the insects arrive. They are predicting the future and responding collectively. Now here is the part that should make you sit very still. This has been happening for 400 million years, completely invisible to humans, completely silent, completely ignored. We walk past forests every day calling them scenery. The most sophisticated communication network on Earth was under our feet the entire time, and we were too busy looking at our phones to notice it. What if gravity, the force you have trusted your entire life, the force keeping you glued to this chair right now, is actually the weakest force in the entire universe, and you have been misunderstanding it completely? This is where physics becomes genuinely mind-breaking. A tiny magnet on your refrigerator is defeating the gravitational pull of the entire planet Earth every single morning. The whole mass of Earth is pulling that magnet down, and the electromagnetic force inside that small magnet is winning easily. Gravity is so embarrassingly weak that physicists cannot even fit it into the same equations as the other forces. It does not belong in the same mathematical family. Some scientists seriously propose that gravity might be leaking in from another dimension, which is why it appears so faint in ours. So the force you credit for holding the universe together, the force you think is powerful and dominant, it is actually the cosmic underdog, losing fights to refrigerator magnets every single day. Reality is genuinely stranger than any story ever written. What if time, the most personal, most intimate experience of your entire life, is not actually moving forward at all, and the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously right now? Physicists call this the block universe theory. And it is not science fiction, it is what the mathematics of Einstein's relativity actually tells us. Every moment that ever existed still exists. Your childhood birthday is not gone, it is locked in space-time, permanently preserved, as real as this moment. The equations of physics work equally well forwards and backwards. There is no mathematical arrow forcing time in one direction. The only reason you experience now, moving forward, is because of entropy, the universe spreading disorder, which creates the psychological illusion of time flowing. Here is the truly dizzying part. Two people moving at different speeds experience time at genuinely different rates. Time literally runs slower near massive objects. An astronaut returning from space is measurably younger than their twin on Earth. Time is not a river, it is a landscape, and you are frozen in one tiny spot on it. What if the thing you are most certain about, your own conscious self, the you reading these words, is actually a story your brain invented about 3 seconds ago? Neuroscience has revealed something deeply unsettling. Your conscious awareness is not running your decisions. Your brain makes decisions approximately 7–10 seconds before you become consciously aware of making them. Researchers can predict your choices using brain scans before you know what you will choose. What you experience as deciding is actually your brain presenting you a finished decision and letting you believe you authored it. Your sense of continuous identity, the feeling of being the same person who woke up this morning, is a narrative your hippocampus stitches together every single day using memory fragments, many of which are partially false. You have literally never remembered a real memory. Every time you recall something, you are remembering the last time you remembered it, and each retrieval subtly rewrites it. The self is not a fact. It is a very convincing, constantly edited autobiography running inside 1.3 kilograms of wet tissue. What if the most revolutionary thing you could ever do, more powerful than any technology, any wealth, any political movement, is simply to change the angle from which you look at an ordinary problem? History proves this repeatedly and violently. For centuries, doctors killed patients by going directly from autopsies to delivering babies without washing hands. The answer was not a new invention, just a different perspective. Galileo did not build a better universe, he simply looked at the existing one differently and turned it inside out. Einstein did not discover new physics in a laboratory, he sat quietly and asked, what would light look like if I rode alongside it, and completely dismantled 200 years of Newtonian certainty. Every single breakthrough in human history was fundamentally a shift in perspective first and a discovery second. The universe has not been hiding its secrets because they are impossible to find. It has been hiding them in plain sight, waiting for someone willing to feel genuinely confused, genuinely uncomfortable, and completely willing to look like a fool while asking the obvious question nobody thought was worth asking. What if, right now, in this very moment, you are surrounded by a universe so impossibly rich, so outrageously detailed, so mathematically beautiful that if you could see even 1% more of it than you currently do, you would drop to your knees in absolute shock and never think about your problems the same way again? What if the reason most people live small, think small, and die feeling like they missed something is not because the universe gave them too little, but because nobody ever taught them how to look? What if curiosity, raw, childlike, embarrassing, relentless curiosity, is the single most powerful force available to any human being on this planet, and most people traded it away for certainty before they turned 20? What if the world you have been walking through every single day of your life is not the world at all, but just the world from one angle, one frequency, one narrow biological window, and right behind that window, pressing against the glass, is something so vast and so electric and so alive that science has only scratched the absolute surface? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I want to show you the world from another point of view, and I promise you, you will never unsee it. I want to start with a confession. I used to think I understood the world. I think most people do. You wake up, you see the sky, you touch the table, you feel the ground beneath your feet, and somewhere in your brain, a quiet and completely unjustified confidence whispers, yes, I know what this is, I know what is happening here. That confidence, I have come to believe, is the single most dangerous idea a human being can carry, because the moment you are certain you have seen something completely, you stop looking. And the universe, as it turns out, rewards looking above everything else. It rewards the person willing to say, wait, I think I may have understood this wrong. Let me tell you what I mean. Right now, as you sit here, you are being bombarded. Radio waves from distant galaxies are passing through your skull. Neutrinos, particles so small and so ghostly that they barely interact with matter at all, approximately 65 billion of them, are passing through every single square centimeter of your body, every second. Not around you, through you, right through the atoms that make up your hands and your chest and your eyes, and you feel absolutely nothing. Your senses, these extraordinary instruments you trust completely, are telling you the world is quiet, solid, and manageable. But the truth is that you are standing inside a hurricane of invisible energy, radiation, fields, waves, and particles, and your biology has made the executive decision not to show you any of it. Now here is the question that changes everything. What kind of world would you see if you could? If you could see magnetic fields, the space above a simple kitchen magnet would look like a magnificent, curling aurora. If you could see an ultraviolet, flowers would appear with brilliant runway markings painted on their petals, roads built specifically for bees, completely invisible to us. If you could sense electric fields the way certain fish can, you would feel the heartbeat of every living creature near you like a signature written in electricity. The world is not hiding. We are just looking through an extraordinarily narrow window and calling it a view. I find trees very instructive, not because they are pleasant to look at, though they are, but because trees will absolutely destroy your confidence in your own categories if you let them. We decided at some point that trees are scenery, background. They stand still, they provide shade, they are not doing anything particularly interesting. We walked through forests for thousands of years with this understanding firmly in place, and then science looked closer. What scientists found underneath forests was something so organized, so intentional, so structurally sophisticated, that the word scenery becomes almost comically inadequate. Trees are connected underground through vast fungal networks, threads thinner than a human hair, running for miles, linking tree to tree in a system of such complexity that it operates like an economy. Nutrients flow from healthy trees to sick ones. A tree under stress sends chemical distress signals that other trees receive and respond to. When insects attack a tree at one end of a forest, trees on the opposite side begin producing chemical defenses before the insects arrive. They are not reacting, they are predicting. This system is 400 million years old. It was operating during the age of dinosaurs. It was running while the Roman Empire rose and fell. It is running right now, under the parking lot outside, and under the parks where people walk and look at their phones. We were not wrong to call them trees. We were wrong to think we knew what a tree was. That is the point. The label is not the thing. The name is not the understanding. And the confidence that comes from being able to name something, that confidence is the enemy of genuine knowledge. Now I want to talk about gravity, because gravity is a perfect example of a thing everyone thinks they understand and almost no one actually does. You experience gravity as powerful, dominant, the great organizer of the universe, pulling everything toward everything else with slow, patient authority. Here is what nobody tells you. Gravity is the weakest force in nature, by an almost incomprehensible margin. Right now, a small refrigerator magnet is defeating the gravitational pull of the entire mass of Earth. The full gravity of this planet, all 6 sextillion tons of it, is pulling that magnet toward the ground. And the electromagnetic force locked inside that small, cheap magnet is winning, without any effort. Every morning, physicists cannot even write gravity into the same equations as the other fundamental forces. It does not fit. It behaves differently. It scales differently. And some serious scientists, not science fiction writers, not enthusiasts, but working physicists, have proposed that gravity appears so weak in our universe because it is actually leaking in from another dimension entirely, and we are only catching the spillover. Now, I am not telling you this because it resolves anything. I am telling you this because it should disturb you. It should make you sit with the profound discomfort of realizing that the force you have stood on every day of your life, the force you have never once questioned, is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in all of physics. The most familiar things are frequently the most poorly understood. Let me say something about time that I suspect you will resist. Time feels personal, intimate. It is the thread of your life. You remember the past, you exist in the present, you anticipate the future. The forward motion of time feels as natural and as certain as anything you have ever experienced. But the mathematics does not agree with you. The equations that describe the physical universe, equations tested, verified, and used to build technologies you use every day, these equations work equally well in both directions of time. There is no mathematical reason time moves forward. The physics is symmetrical. Forwards and backwards are, mathematically speaking, equivalent. The reason you experience time moving forward is entropy, the universe's tendency toward increasing disorder, which creates an asymmetry that your brain interprets as a direction. But this is a thermodynamic error, not a fundamental one. And there is a framework supported by the mathematics of relativity called the block universe, which states that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, that every moment is equally real, equally present, simply located at different coordinates in space-time. Your childhood is not gone. It exists. It is simply elsewhere. Time is also not universal. It runs at different speeds depending on your velocity and the strength of the gravitational field around you. An atomic clock placed at the top of a tall building ticks measurably faster than one at the bottom because gravity warps time. Astronauts returning from long missions are measurably younger than they would have been on Earth. Time bends, time dilates. Time is a geography you move through, not a current that carries you. Once you understand that, really sit with it. The ordinary things become extraordinary. Every moment becomes a location in a cosmic map stretching in 4 dimensions. And the urgency, the rush, the anxiety about losing time, it takes on a completely different character when you realize time is not being lost but preserved, everywhere, permanently, written into the structure of space-time itself. Here is something even closer to home. The decision you believe you just made, the one that feels entirely personally, authentically yours, your brain made it before you did. This is not philosophy. This is experimental neuroscience, and the results are genuinely alarming if you sit with them seriously. Using brain imaging, researchers can detect the neural patterns that predict your decisions up to 10 seconds before you are consciously aware of making them. The subjective experience of choosing, that clear internal sense of authorship, of deliberation, of I am deciding this right now, arrives after the fact. Your conscious mind is not the driver. It is a passenger, being handed a summary of decisions already made and invited to take credit. And memory, the record of who you are, the evidence of your continuity as a person, Memory is not storage, it is reconstruction. Every time you remember something, you are not accessing an original recording, you are rebuilding it from fragments, and in the process of rebuilding it, you alter it. You have never once in your life retrieved an original memory, you have only ever remembered the last time you remembered it. Your identity is a story you are constantly rewriting, believing all the while that you are simply recalling facts. This is not a reason for despair. It is a reason for profound humility and for genuine fascination. If the self is a construction rather than a discovery, then in some real and important sense you have more freedom over who you are than you have ever exercised. The story is still being written. You hold the pen more than you think. Now I want to bring all of this together with something very simple. Everything I have described, the invisible electromagnetic storm around you, the ancient intelligence of forests, the embarrassing weakness of gravity, the landscape of time, the constructed nature of the self, none of it required new data to discover. The universe did not suddenly change. It was always this way. What changed was the angle of looking. The greatest revolutions in understanding have almost always been revolutions in perspective first and revolutions in data second. Someone looked at a familiar thing from an unfamiliar angle, felt the ground shift beneath them, and followed that feeling instead of retreating from it. And this is available to everyone. Not just scientists, not just specialists, not just people with particular credentials or particular instruments. It is available to anyone willing to do the one thing that is genuinely difficult in this world, to look at something they believe they already understand and ask, sincerely, without defensiveness, without needing to be right, what if I am missing something here? What if this is stranger than it appears? What if the most interesting thing about this is the thing I have been ignoring because it seemed too obvious to investigate? Curiosity is not a personality trait, it is a decision. It is a repeated, active, sometimes uncomfortable choice to remain genuinely uncertain in the presence of something you could easily dismiss, to feel the friction of not knowing, and to stay there a little longer instead of reaching for the nearest available explanation. The universe has not been hiding from us. We have been looking through a very narrow window, seeing a very small fraction, and building very large certainties from a very small sample. And once you see that, once you really feel the edges of your own window, the world opens up. Not just intellectually, but emotionally. The morning sky is not just blue, it is the result of atmospheric scattering of specific wavelengths, which means it is simultaneously a different color from every other location on the planet. The ground beneath your feet is not solid, it is mostly empty space, held together by electromagnetic repulsion between electron clouds that never actually touch. The silence in a quiet room is not empty, it is full of sound waves your ears cannot detect, full of electromagnetic fields your senses cannot register, full of neutrinos that have traveled from the heart of the sun and are passing through you without a goodbye. All of it is more extraordinary than it appears. And the only instrument you need to see it is the willingness to look again at something you already think you know from another point of view. We began with a simple question, what if you are not seeing the world? And we end with something more interesting than an answer. We end with a direction. The direction is not toward more certainty, it is toward more wonder. It is toward the willingness to sit with confusion a little longer, to resist the comfort of easy explanation, to hold a question the way you would hold something beautiful and unfamiliar, carefully, curiously, without immediately demanding that it become useful. The world from another point of view is not a world that is harder to live in. It is a world that is impossible to be bored by. It is a world where a falling apple is a question about the shape of space-time, where a forest is a communication network older than mammals, where a magnet on your refrigerator is defeating a planet every single morning. The invitation is not to become a scientist. The invitation is to become genuinely curious about the floor you stand on, about the sky above you, about the self that reads these words and wonders what it is. Because the universe has been extraordinary the entire time.